In June 2022, my sister and I decided to have a spontaneous girls' trip to California. We were super excited and booked a cozy Airbnb in a quiet San Francisco neighborhood that could fit 6 people. The place seemed perfect for a fun and relaxing getaway. As soon as we arrived, we were eager to explore our temporary home. The Airbnb had a unique vibe, but we didn't think much of it at first. The creaky floors and flickering lights could be easily dismissed as quirks of an older house. On our first night, things took an eerie turn. I had a strange dream about a lady in a white gown struggling to turn on the TV. When I woke up, the TV was mysteriously on, and nobody in our group claimed responsibility. It gave me the chills, but I brushed it off, thinking it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. Our Airbnb had a basement, which included a game room for entertainment. The next night, I heard peculiar noises coming from the kitchen. In my half-awake state, I could swear I saw the same lady from my dream washing dishes. When I fully woke up, the sink was running water, but no one else in the house had used it. The weird feeling lingered, and that night I had another dream about the lady. She spoke to me, saying she lost one of her shoes, a red pair. It was all too bizarre, but I kept it to myself, not wanting to sound crazy to my sister and friends. The following morning, we decided to check out the basement for some gaming fun. As I descended the stairs, I noticed an old photo on the wall. To my horror, it was the same woman from my dreams. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't mention anything to the others. I didn't want to scare them, or be labeled as the overly imaginative one. Ignoring the unsettling discovery, we immersed ourselves in the games in the basement. Everything seemed fine until, out of curiosity, I peeked under the ping pong table. There, right before my eyes, were a pair of red shoes, the same ones the woman in my dreams had lost. I was petrified, but decided to keep my findings to myself. I didn't want my sister and friends to think I was losing my mind. We continued with our trip, trying to enjoy every moment, but the creepy occurrences in the Airbnb haunted me. To this day, I've never shared my experience with anyone. It's a chilling memory that still sends shivers down my spine. I often wonder about the mysterious lady in the white gown and the red shoes, and whether our paths crossed in the realm of the supernatural during that unsettling girls' trip to California. Back when I was younger, living in our village in Laos was like being trapped in a forgotten corner of the world. It was a place isolated from modern life, surrounded by dense forests and looming mountains. My family wasn't exactly what you'd call hardworking. I had a brother and sister who were disrespectful, and our parents spent their days in a haze of opium smoke. Our routine was lazy, and we never bothered to change it. The people in the village don't really like us much because every day my parents will go around town to buy money or drugs to use. So the village people kicked us out, so we went to build a house at the farm, which is a 30-minute walk to the village. Then, one day my father passed away. Strangely, none of us felt much sorrow. We buried him without shedding a tear, and life continued in the same lazy rhythm. Years went by, and our mother fell ill. Her health deteriorated until she took her last breath. We didn't have the means for a proper burial, so we dressed her up and left her on the farm bed. That night, something terrifying happened. Strange noises echoed at the door, and fear gripped our hearts as we realized it was our dead mother. Her voice was creepy, like a melody from the underworld, and her hands looked like something out of a nightmare. She tried to dig under the door, scratching and scraping, and even licked it with a long, slimy tongue. She will also crawl on top of the ceiling and peek at us from above. Even in daylight, you'll see her on top of the ceiling, smiling at us. We huddled together in a group, and my older brother's beg was for my mom to go away. Frozen in fear as the night dragged on. By morning, the noises had ceased, and we cautiously opened the door. To our horror, our mother's body was gone, vanished into thin air. We were left bewildered and terrified, wondering where she had gone. Days passed, and the eerie events didn't stop. Strange occurrences haunted our nights, and we could feel a sinister presence lingering in our home. It seemed like our mother's spirit was restless and angry. One night, as we lay huddled together, we heard her voice again. It whispered through the creaks of the wooden walls, sending shivers down our spines. We knew we couldn't stay in that place any longer. The next morning, my siblings and I made a pact to leave the village to escape the horrors that had befallen us. We packed what little we had and left, leaving the memories of that haunted village behind. We traveled far, hoping to leave the darkness of our past behind us. No one ever heard from us again, as we disappeared into the vast unknown. The tale of our haunted village became a distant memory, but the horror of that night stayed with us forever. The fear of the unknown, the strange happenings, and the unsettling feeling that our mother's spirit was never at peace haunted our dreams. We became nomads, wandering through life, always looking over our shoulders, afraid that the horrors of that isolated village might catch up to us once again. I am now an old man living in the United States, and that was a scary life event from when I was younger. Back in the summer of 2008, life took a twisted turn for me. My girlfriend and I were living with her parents, and let me tell you, her mother and I did not get along. It seemed like we were arguing over every little thing, and the tension in the house was suffocating. But things took a darker turn when we finally managed to find our own place. The ominous beginning of my eerie tale doesn't end there. As fate would have it, my girlfriend's mother fell seriously ill and ended up on her deathbed. It was a heartbreaking time for the family, and little did I know that it would mark the beginning of a haunting experience that would stay with me for years to come. On her deathbed, my girlfriend's mother uttered words that sent shivers down my spine. She claimed that she would come back to get me. Now, I'm not one to easily believe in the supernatural, but what followed made me question everything I thought I knew about life and death. What creeps me out is that at my girlfriend's mother's funeral, it looks like she was smiling at me. Every night, as I drove home from work, I would catch a glimpse of my girlfriend's mother standing in the dark corner of the street. The strange part? She'd be giving me the nastiest look, as if blaming me for something. It was unnerving, to say the least. I tried to dismiss it as my imagination playing tricks on me, but the unsettling feeling lingered. One night, my car decided to die on me, so I decided to ride my bike to work. Riding my bike back from work was really late at night. As I rode my bike and started pedaling home, things took a turn for the worse. In the dimly lit corners, I saw her, my girlfriend's dead mother. She was there, lurking in the shadows, and the nasty look on her face intensified. Panic set in, and I pedaled harder, hoping to escape whatever eerie presence was haunting me. Days turned into weeks, and the nightly encounters continued. It became a terrifying routine, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being pursued by something beyond the realm of the living. Desperation pushed me to confide in my parents, and their advice was chilling. They urged me to break up with my girlfriend, as if that would somehow end the spectral torment. Fearing for my sanity, I followed their advice and ended the relationship, but the paranormal occurrences persisted, and I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare that refused to let go. In my desperation, I sought the help of a shaman, hoping for a way to break free from this haunting curse. The shaman performed a mysterious ritual and changed my name, claiming that it would sever the ties with the vengeful spirit. Skeptical, yet desperate, I clung to any hope of escaping the ghostly grip that held me captive. And miraculously, the encounters are gone. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I found relief from the relentless pursuit of my girlfriend's mother's spirit. The dark corners of the street were no longer occupied by her menacing presence, and I could breathe a sigh of relief. In the end, the shaman's intervention seemed to have worked, and I was left to rebuild my life. But the scars of that haunting experience lingered, a constant reminder that sometimes the line between the living and the dead can blur in the most unexpected and terrifying ways. The night was unusually quiet as I settled into my uncle's house, ready for a night of babysitting his kids. I had just finished a long day at work, and the only thing on my mind was getting some rest on the comfy couch. As I took a soothing shower, the steam wrapping around me like a warm hug, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. You know that eerie sensation when the air changes and you can almost taste the unease? Yeah, that's what I felt. When I finally draped myself over the couch, getting cozy under a blanket, the stillness outside was broken by a sharp knock on the door. It was one of those knocks that sends shivers down your spine. I hesitated for a moment, debating whether to answer or pretend I didn't hear it. But curiosity got the better of me, and I trudged towards the door. Slowly I turned the knob, revealing a figure standing in the dimly lit porch. It was Yi Leng, a friend of my uncle. Now, let me tell you, Yi Leng was known for his chatter. The man could talk your ear off without taking a breath, but this time, he was different. I greeted him. "Hey, Yi Leng, what brings you here?" He didn't respond. No hello, no small talk, just silence. His eyes seemed vacant, like there was no soul behind them. It sent a chill down my spine, and I felt a shiver crawl up my arms. Trying to shake off the weird vibes, I asked, "Is my uncle expecting you?" Still no words. Yi Leng just stared, and then, without a single sound, he turned away and started walking into the night. I stood there baffled, watching him disappear into the darkness. It struck me as odd. Yi Leng wasn't known for silent visits. Something was off about him. I closed the door, trying to brush it off as exhaustion playing tricks on my mind. Hours passed and my uncle returned from the funeral. I couldn't wait to tell him about the strange encounter. When I mentioned Yi Leng's visit, my uncle's face turned pale, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Yi Leng?" he stuttered, a tremor in his voice. "Are you sure it was him?" I nodded, my confusion growing. "Yeah, he came by asking for you, but he didn't say anything and just walked away." My uncle's expression darkened, and he spoke in a hushed tone. "The funeral I attended today was for Yi Leng. He passed away." My heart dropped. I felt a lump forming in my throat, and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. It couldn't be true. I had just seen Yi Leng a few hours ago. But I saw him. He was here. I stammered, my voice shaky. My uncle's eyes met mine, and I could see the fear and realization in them. "You saw a ghost, my friend. Yi Leng is gone." A shiver ran down my spine as the gravity of the situation sank in. I had opened the door to a presence that shouldn't exist, a spirit that had already bid farewell to the living. The air in the room felt heavy, laden with an otherworldly energy. That night, as I tried to sleep on the couch, every creak, every shadow, felt like a whisper from the beyond. I couldn't shake the feeling that Yi Leng's visit wasn't a mere coincidence. It was a message from the other side, a reminder that sometimes the boundary between the living and the dead is thinner than we think. From that day on, my uncle's house held a lingering unease. The atmosphere was thick with the unspoken presence of Yi Leng's spirit. I couldn't forget the vacant stare, the silent footsteps into the night. It's funny how a seemingly normal night of babysitting turned into a brush with the supernatural. The memory of Yi Leng's ghostly visit still sends shivers down my spine. And every time I hear a knock on the door, I can't help but wonder who or what might be on the other side. A long, long time ago in Laos, I was just a kid. My dad, he was a scary man. He wanted drugs so bad, he wanted them more than anything else. One day he went crazy. He wanted money for drugs, and my mom said no. That's when things got really scary. My grandpa, a wise man, saw the danger. He told us to run away from our dad, so my mom, my siblings, and I took off, running far away from our village. We walked for 2 whole days until we reached my grandpa's farm. It was supposed to be a safe place, a place where we could forget about the nightmare at home. But one day, the nightmare caught up with us. Out of nowhere, my dad appeared. He kicked the door open, and his eyes were wild, filled with madness. He grabbed my mom's hair and dragged her outside. We were frozen with fear. Then, my older brother, just 16 at the time, did something I never thought he could do. He hit our dad with a log. A sickening thud filled the air, and our dad fell to the ground, lifeless. Blood stained the ground around him. It was getting dark, and we were in the middle of nowhere. No flashlight, no way to go back to the village. So we did the only thing we could. We buried our dad close to the house. That night, as we tried to sleep, we heard something that made our blood run cold. Kicking on the door, and a ghostly voice yelling for us to open up. We were scared out of our minds, but we knew it couldn't be our dad. He was dead, but the kicking and yelling continued all through the night. In the morning, we were exhausted and the kicking stopped. We thought it was over, but we were wrong. As the sun rose, we heard something even more terrifying. Our dad's ghost was there, right in front of us. He looked just like he did when he died, bloodied and angry. He chased us, his ghostly figure moving fast like a nightmare come to life. We ran as fast as we could back towards the village. It felt like he was right behind us, his ghostly presence making the air colder. We were almost at the village when my grandparents found us. They rescued us from the clutches of our dad's vengeful spirit. We looked back one last time, and there he was, fading away like a shadow. The horrors of the past lingered, but we were safe. Our grandparents held us close, and we knew we were finally free from the haunting memories of that long, scary night. In the heart of Laos, amidst the towering mountains and scattered villages, there lies a place shrouded in mystery. It was here that a chilling tale unfolded, one that would forever haunt the memories of those who dared to venture into the unknown. I was just a young boy back then, part of a group of adventurous friends who decided to go hunting in the wilderness. Our laughter echoed through the dense forests as we trudged along the rugged paths. Eventually, fatigue set in, and we sought respite near an ancient gravesite. Little did we know, that moment would mark the beginning of an eerie encounter that would change our lives forever. As we rested, one of the boys, mischievous and bold, decided to play a macabre game. He found a bamboo stick and began tapping it on the weathered gravestones, teasingly trying to wake the dead. Laughter erupted, and we dismissed the superstitious warnings that echoed in our minds. Little did we realize the consequences of our foolish jest. Later, when the sun began its descent, we split into 2 groups for the hunt. One of our friends volunteered to stay behind at the campsite, promising to prepare a hearty meal for our return. Unbeknownst to us, this decision would plunge him into a nightmare he could never have imagined. As he tended to the cooking fire, his eyes caught a glimpse of a figure in the distance. A lady adorned in traditional Hmong clothes, her silhouette hauntingly framed against the fading twilight. But something was dreadfully wrong. Her neck dangled unnaturally from a tree branch. Fear gripped him, and without thinking, he fired a shot in terror, hoping to dispel the apparition before him. When we returned, we sensed an unease in his demeanor, but he hesitated to share the ghastly sight that had unfolded in his solitude. Unsettled, we dismissed it as fatigue and the wild imaginations of an isolated mind. Days passed, and a sinister shadow crept over our once jovial group. Our parents hire a shaman, wise in the ancient ways, visited our camp with a grave expression etched upon his face. He revealed a bone-chilling truth. The lady in Hmong clothes was a spirit the boy had woken and buried there. Our souls, tainted by the irreverence of our actions at the gravesite, had become pawns in her malevolent game. As the days wore on, we fell victim to a mysterious ailment, our bodies weakening and spirits fading. The shaman, in desperation, attempted to intervene, but the supernatural forces at play proved too formidable. The once vibrant and lively group of friends now withered away, succumbing to an unknown affliction that left the villagers baffled. In the end, the boy who had witnessed the ghostly apparition stood alone, tormented by the guilt of a jest gone horribly wrong. He didn't make it, and passed away from an unknown illness. The lesson learned from that harrowing experience echoes through the mountains, a cautionary tale shared in hushed tones. Don't joke with the dead, they say, for the spirits that dwell in the unseen realms may seek retribution for the disrespect shown to the sanctity of the afterlife. And so, the chilling tale of our ill-fated hunting trip serves as a grim reminder to those who dare to mock the mysteries that lie beyond the realm of the living.